Welcome to Bleav In Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli back with you. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, follow this podcast. You can also catch us on Bleav TV. Follow us on all the socials, you guys. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in the UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to our online casino, get in a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV for your 50% off free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. I have a man who needs no introduction. You know him very well. Senior NFL insider for ESPN, Adam Schefter, joining us. Adam, thank you so much for making the time. How was your 4th of July?
It was very nice, Erin. It's a nice, quiet time of the year. I always view July 4th as the end of summer. So while most people think like this is this great day, we celebrate America's birthday, celebrate our freedom, all these things like that, I always say, here we go again. We're about to get going. And so July 4th to me marks not the start of summer, but the end of summer because training camp is upon us.
I love it. I love it. How many years now has it been for you? I mean, you started for ESPN 2009, right?
Erin, I don't mean to age myself, but I've covered the National Football League for 35 years now.
Okay.
35 years, since 1990.
Wow. Okay. So you've seen many different iterations.
I've probably covered the league before you were born.
Right around there. But that means that you have seen it all. And I love getting you on July 5th because you're right. It is the calm before the storm. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No. I'm listening to you.
Okay.
It's your floor.
It's the calm before the storm, before this season really ramps up. And so, I want to talk to you all things about you, your daughter, your ESPN colleagues. You guys have a new addition to Monday Night Countdown. A lot of exciting things ahead for you and for ESPN. But, it's a Rams show. I need to dig into getting a little bit of your take as we see things currently in LA. But first and foremost, were you surprised by the run the Rams made last season and sort of the newly anticipated things happening in LA currently?
No, I think that when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who I think is actually more highly regarded in personnel departments than he is amongst fans, when you've got a team that has some of the offensive weapons that they do, and Sean McVay, that was coming off a disappointing season, the expectations were low. And so it was set up for them to exceed expectations. And that's exactly what they did. They had a very strong season. Could have been even better, but you can't complain with the way the year went. They finally had their picks back. They finally have cap space. They finally had the flexibility to make some of the moves that they have been unable to make in other years. So there's a team that was heading into the offseason with some options. But no, last year was a strong year, and I think they're set up to have another good year this year.
Yeah. And it's interesting you bring up Matthew Stafford. I want to talk a little bit about his contract. But before that, I had a guest on last week, Matt Sims, and he actually compared Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. Obviously, they played in that division for a long time. But now he said if Stafford ends up making any kind of Super Bowl run, we're now putting these guys in the same category. Do you see these two guys sort of trending in opposite directions, being everything that happened, obviously, with Rodgers and the Jets? And if he makes the Super Bowl run, are we putting Stafford in elite category? Because you're right, fans don't do that for some reason with Matthew Stafford, don't you think?
Well, I think the way that their careers have trended in recent years, our most recent memory of Aaron Rodgers is him falling to the ground and being carted off with a torn Achilles. That's the freshest memory, not to mention all the off-the-field issues that he has brought up himself on various podcast platforms, most notably Pat McAfee. And so people have, I think, formed a different opinion of Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years, and it's up to him to go be the Aaron Rodgers that people knew and the one that people admired. And we haven't seen that, in a couple of years now. So it's up to him to get that back, and he'll have the chance to do that this year. Stafford, it just seems like gets better every year. And he won a Super Bowl later in his career. He got them to the playoffs last year. So it's almost like his respect level has risen over time. And like I said to you, I Bleav if you speak to enough personnel people around the league, they have great respect for him. And I think they have a higher regard for him than fans generally do. Not that fans don't like Matthew Stafford, but I don't think they realize how good he actually is and how much people think of him across the league.
Yeah, he's gritty, he's tough, he can make all the throws. Yeah, I mean, people I feel don't give Stafford the respect that he deserves. And, look, it's an interesting situation that's happening in LA. I want to get your take on sort of what you're hearing or how you think things are going to shake out with Stafford in the contract, right? I mean, it's not an easy decision for what the Rams have to decide. I mean, it's not like Stafford's not had injuries within the last couple of years. He's 36, going to be 37. How do you see things shaking out contract wise for Stafford and Los Angeles?
I don't know other than to say they still have to shake out, to your point. They haven't shaken out. And so I don't think that Matthew Stafford, based on what's transpired during the offseason, is overly pleased with his particular contract situation right now. We know it has become an issue. The Rams have brought that up during the offseason. We know it has not been addressed. We know other quarterbacks have been paid. And so we're still waiting to see how this is going to, steal your phrase, shake out, because it has to shake out. I expect that it'll shake out. I would expect that it would be addressed the week of training camp, if not shortly thereafter, to the point where something is done for Matthew Stafford, but I just don't know what that is right now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have a disgruntled quarterback entering into this season. I mean, it's important for both of these two sides to make a deal before, and you see it possibly happening before the season starts.
There are certain artificial deadlines. One is right when camp is opening, and you think that something could potentially get done then. And if it doesn't get done then I think the next deadline would be right before the start of the season. But it's hard to imagine we're going to get into training camp and then into the start of the season where nothing is going to be done at all. I don't see that being the case. I just don't know when they address it, and I don't know how they address it, other than I think it's going to be addressed at some point in time.
Okay. I mean, good news for Rams fans. I'm sure they want to get that guy signed up and make him happy and keep him happy as long as he's in a Rams jersey. Speaking of a Rams jersey, I mean, let's talk Sean McVay, because he's such an elusive character in the LA season. And he's somebody that, a lot of people talked about him walking away, right? He was going to sort of walk away. And then do you feel like Stafford, in some ways, that relationship, that partnership sort of infused a rejuvenated feeling for McVay? Because is he going to end up retiring soon? How do you see that shaking out?
Well, he hasn't talked like that recently. And in fact, it's been the opposite, Aaron. I think he's talked about the fact that the players there, some of the young guys that they've brought in, that they've invigorated him and provided him a certain sense of rejuvenation that he didn't feel a couple of years ago when he was considering walking away. I think, his life is very different right now. Obviously, he's married. He's a dad. He's got bills to pay. I don't know that he wants to walk away, although he probably can make a lot of money in media too. So he has options about what he wants to do and how he wants to proceed from there. Again, that seems to be put away for the time being, but it's a stress-induced profession. There's a lot of stress involved with any of these jobs that these guys do. Could at any point he decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore? Yeah, because he would have a media career waiting for him. But he hasn't talked like that since that instance where it did come up that he was considering walking away when he recommitted to the Rams and returned to the sideline to coach more.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So Adam Schefter listens to how Coach McVay talks, because you're right. Kids are very expensive. He has a new baby. Maybe he wants to do the coaching thing for a little bit longer. I mean, as he should.
But Aaron, if I could buy stock in Sean McVay, I don't care whether he's coaching or broadcasting, he's going to do great whatever he does. So he could make a lot of money in broadcasting if that's what he decided to do. But right now he wants to coach. And we'll see how long he wants to continue to do that for.
What makes him so great? Why do you think guys love playing for him?
I think he's very relatable. He's very smart. He's very sharp. He. You know what it is? He knows how to communicate with people. He just gets it. And I always say that in our business, there are people that get it and people that don't get it. Sean McVay absolutely gets it. He's in that category. And so you've dealt with him. You understand, right? Does he not get it?
He gets it.
Yeah.
He is an effective communicator. He's also such an effective leader. What I love about him, or at least what I've heard from a lot of people around him, is he wants feedback on how he's doing. And I think that that makes you an exceptional leader when you have that ability to connect and communicate with your team and ask, how can I do this better? Right? I feel like he has that focal point where he can really connect and communicate with his guys.
You know
And
what
they
I
trust him.
remember about Sean McVay? I remember, I think it was his first year that he was coaching. If it wasn't his first year, then it might have been his second year, but I Bleav it was his first year. Did they make the playoffs in his first year as a coach? Do you
I
remember
don't
that?
think so. No.
Okay, it was his first playoff appearance, whenever that
Okay.
was. So it was early in his coaching tenure with the Rams. And that was a week in which he announced early on that he was resting some of his players in the final regular season game, or whatever it was. And I remember speaking to some coaches, some veteran coaches who were out of the game who thought that he took the wrong approach. And I remember saying it to him. Now, some coaches would have been like, screw that guy. What does he know? And Sean was like, that's interesting. I appreciate that feedback. Thank you for sharing that. It's another way of looking at it. And again, that's just different than the way a lot of people would approach it. He was open to other ideas. He recognized that he didn't necessarily know all. He considered other people's points of view, and he factored that into his mind of his so that he can make the best decisions going forward.
And honestly, I really love that. Whether you're a coach or a CEO, being able to be
Yeah.
pliable and being able to see it from someone else's perspective. I think you have nothing but wisdom to gain when you're listening and you're observing. And yeah, I think that makes him very special, very unique. So
Always important to be pliable, Erin. Always
there
important to be pliable.
be agile, head on a swivel. I love that. Another thing I love is watching you guys on ESPN. And I want to switch gears, talk about your show. But before that, this will be your first season without a really good friend of yours. You lost Chris Mortensen, and you posted a really beautiful tribute that really impacted me and everybody that got to see it. How did he impact you as not just a
Yeah.
broadcaster, but as a person? Because I can tell the connection you guys had was very deep.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of my very closest friends there. To this day, my Twitter avatar still is a picture of me and him from a commercial that we shot together during my early years at ESPN. We had a lot of fun shooting a lot of these commercials. I think about that and him every day. I thought about him this morning before you even asked that question,
Mm.
just as I thought about him yesterday. And I keep telling myself, I can't believe Mort is not here. It's hard for me to process that. Just like when anybody loses somebody that they love, who's a prominent part of their life, it's hard to imagine that that person wouldn't have a presence in your life going forward. And like I've said to other people, I've been at ESPN for 15 years. And so basically, with the exception of this past year, Chris Mortensen was sitting at my side, our legs touching, for every one of those drafts. For Sunday Countdown, up until this past year, he was a part of every shot basically that I did, and we were side by side. And it was always great to be able to call him and talk through things. And I always wanted to know what he knew. I was always curious about that. And he just had been through so much, and he meant so much to me, and I wouldn't be where I am, who I am, without his presence in my life. And everybody needs somebody like that, that kind of takes you under their wing, that brings you along, that believes in you. And he was that guy for
Mm.
me. And, listen, it's a loss for me, but it's a bigger loss for his wife, Mickey, and his son, Alex, and all the people who knew and loved him so much. And there were an awful lot. We had a celebration of life for him in Arkansas in May. And it was very memorable because everybody got to fly to Arkansas, which many of us had never been there. As much as we love Mort, as close as we were to him, we weren't spending our off season, going on connecting flights to Arkansas to go visit Mort there, considering that he often came to the East Coast. So it was our little joke. We were saying, Mort loved to prank us. Say he was making everybody come to Arkansas in May. And of course, there were storms that came in. And as I was on the way to his service, his celebration of life service, I got a notice that my flight out of Arkansas was canceled. And of course, now I had to scramble and come up with all that. This was before I gave his eulogy. And I had one little thing that I had taken in my notes, and I was so bummed out not to be able to share that in the eulogy that I delivered that day. But Mort was very proud of the fact that he was Honduran. And I checked that day. To look at the great Hondurans in history. And the only one that I found that I ever heard of was Steve Van Buren in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So to me, Mort is more well known than Steve Van Buren, which therefore, and I didn't get to point this out at his service that day because I was a little frazzled from him having the flights canceled and me having connected with the city. I wanted to point out that Mort is the greatest Honduran in our history.
I mean, what an accomplishment! What an achievement! He would be so proud. But it's 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 so nice to be in this industry and hear people recognize and love the people that have sort of helped us along the way. And I want to talk about your daughter for a moment because she's got quite a bright future ahead of her. But I think Mort would be really proud of you, Adam, because I see how you are with other people, and I envision that was probably how Mort was with you, where you show up and I feel like you're very grateful to be on set. You're very grateful to be doing what you do. You utilize your platform for so many different great causes to help other people, and I love watching you elevate the people on your show. You have a great show, with Mina Kimes, Orlovsky, Ryan, and now you guys have Jason Kelsey
Yeah.
joining you guys on Monday Night Countdown. How do you feel about that? And what do you think he's going to bring to the show?
Well, I don't think Jason Kelsey needs me to elevate him first and foremost. I think he's elevated enough.
You
Uh,
never know. He could be nervous. Who
yeah, his
knows?
his accomplishments stand on his own. I don't think he's going to need me to help elevate him. But I'm happy to be there and support him in whatever ways I can. And even somebody that was around him recently, they're like, we've had a lot of stars here at ESPN, but they said to me, this is like next level. Like they could not believe the attention that he's attracted. And look, it's for all the reasons. It's everything he did in Philadelphia. It's the player he was. It's the person he was. It's who his brother is. It's who his brother's dating. It's all of it together, perfect storm. And it makes him, this big time star. So, I'm thrilled that he opted to come to work at ESPN. And I know he is going to do a great job and he's going to fit right in. Uh, you know, I, you know, I consider myself his teammate, but it's sort of like I'm Matt Collins and he's still Jason Kelsey. Like I'm like the fifth string wide receiver, and Jason Kelsey is a part of the team, but I'm a part of the team the way that like the 49th guy on the roster is part of the team.
So he hasn't asked you for any advice yet. You think he's going to be great? He's there's zero nerves on his end.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna ask me for advice. He has not asked me for anything yet. So no, not yet.
All right, well, there's still time, but I am so excited to see him on that show with you guys. He just brings such a spark, such an energy. He's so vibrant. And of course, his relationship with his brother and their podcast, it's hilarious to listen to. Speaking of broadcasters,
Yeah.
another up and coming broadcaster that you guys should know about is Dylan Schefter. Adam Schefter's daughter, who is amazing. She's so clever and smart and has such a great personality. She even teases you a little bit on her own social media. She's
And in
got
real life.
and in real life. I love it. She does the Nickelodeon broadcast with Burleson
Yeah.
and Noah Eagle. And my question to you is, well, I have a couple about this, but what's the most important quality or skill set you hope, being, the titan you are in our industry? What is the most important quality or skill set you want her to take with her on her journey?
Well, the one thing I've tried to teach her is to be kind to all the people that she works with and to appreciate all the people that are helping her do her job. Because look, let's be honest, she's 15 years old, and all these people set her up to do what she does. I mean, what she does, I don't want to diminish it. She's 15. She started when I think she was 13 for Nickelodeon, although she was doing stuff for ESPN when she was 6 and 7 and 8 years old. So she's always dabbled in this space to the degree that she has. But all these people, the producers and the people behind the scenes, they've all obviously helped her a tremendous amount and helped elevate her, to use that phrase again, and put her in the position that she did. And I've always tried to point out to her, make sure that you go over and thank that person, thank that person. I've always tried to do that. And so I've seen her do that, and I think she's been good with that. So that makes me proud when she shows gratitude to all the teammates that have helped her do the job that she does, which her job is pretty singular. She's had to sit down, she's had to interview some people, and she has done that well. But all these other people have enabled her to do what she does, and she has acknowledged that, appreciated that, and recognized that, which has made me proud.
Well, I love that you say that. And I agree. I think it's how you treat the people who can do nothing for you. The camera guy, the makeup artist, they're just as important as the talent in front of the camera. But what I will say is, even if, she's got producers supporting her, standing in front of a camera, having enthusiasm and the ability to maintain composure
Yeah,
when she's doing what she's doing, that is not easy. At 15, I mean, it's incredible to watch her work.
that's the one thing that she has done. That listen, when I watch, I get nervous, more nervous watching her than anything that I could ever do. Like when I'm watching her, I'm like, oh boy, eyes closed. You know what? Honestly, she's not she's not an athlete. I'm not breaking any news there. So there are parents that watch their children perform in little league or basketball or cheerleading or wherever it may be, and when they watch their children, they get very nervous. I watch her do what she does, and I get like, and I'm thinking, I close my eyes, and I'm like thinking, oh my God, there's a great follow-up question there. If she can ask it, if she can ask it, I hope she does this. I hope she remembers to thank that. So like those are the things that are going through my mind. So I'm just like any other parent. It's just that my daughter happens to be doing this on camera rather than on some athletic field.
Yeah, but that's not very easy. I mean, look, when you've been given the award of Media Person of the Year or Best NFL Insider, and let's be honest, you are one of the most influential people in the NFL. How hard is it for someone to, part of our industry is making mistakes. That's how we get better.
Yeah.
How hard is that for you to sit back and kind of watch, because she has to make those actual mistakes,
Yeah,
right?
my,
Because
my,
that's
my wife is, she's like, you have to leave the room sometimes because you're making her more nervous than she should be, and so I probably haven't done as good a job as I could with that probably, and that's a fault and a weakness of mine, and that's something that I need to be better at going forward, Erin.
Well, thank you again. I want to ask you one more question,
Yeah,
because you're very passionate. You mentioned your wife about educating people on type 1
yeah.
diabetes. Why is Adam early detection so important, and
Oh,
where can people get more information on it?
well, I appreciate you asking that. Basically, my wife is type 1 diabetic, and um, for those who don't know, it's a significant condition. It's something that affects her life every single day, which in turn affects our lives every single day. And I've worked with Sanofi Engagement recently to basically meet with legislators in Washington and to encourage people to be screened early for type 1 diabetes. And so they set up a website called the1pledge.com, I believe it is called. And just think it's important for people to know in advance if they have it. That way they're not in a compromised situation where they find out that they have it too late. Again, anything around raising awareness, funds, education about type 1 diabetes and all that comes with it, I think is I don't know, you just feel like you should be doing something like that because it is such a significant condition and it does affect our lives so much on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I appreciate you using your platform to spread awareness, to help other people, and I really appreciate your time. You're so busy. I mean, happy end of a summer for you.
Well, thank you, Erin. I'm not that busy today, July 5th, as we tape this Friday. So, all good. Happy to do this. My pleasure, believe me. And
Yes,
happy summer, happy end of summer to you and everybody putting this podcast together today.
Adam, thank you. Say hi to
Thank you.
Dylan for us.
Of course, I will definitely do that.